Hey y'all, welcome to the Birmingham Real Estate Market Update COVID-19 edition. This is the 12th week of us doing this, and every week we are going through and looking at sales in our market. We're looking at the inventory picture. So we're going to do that this week, and we're also going to look at the Realtor.com recovery index. So that's something they just came out with that's going to tell us how we are doing in our recovery process from COVID-19, how our real estate market is doing, and also how we stack up to other real estate markets in that recovery process. And then we're also going to talk about some PPP loan information that came out, new laws that are being passed for PPP loans to make them even better. And so we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about what's going on in our economy as a whole, some really optimistic things. So let's get started. My name is Rob.h.drum. I'm a real estate broker at eXp Realty here in Birmingham, Alabama. I'll put my information in the description below, and I'd love it if you reach out to me. If you need anything real estate wise, I'm here for you. And I also would love it if you would subscribe to this channel. I do this every week, and try to keep you updated on our market and our economy and really anything to do with Birmingham real estate. So here's the number of closings for this week. We had 324, and that compares to last year at 509. So we're running at about 65% of the closings that we had for the same period last year. A pretty significant drop off there. I really thought that during these weeks, it looked like we were starting to get close percentage wise to the kind of year over year number of sales. And then this week was a pretty steep drop off. And then this week that we just had was a pretty steep drop off. So less sales is not a good thing, but I think one of the things that is leading to less sales versus the same period last year is this issue right here. So these are the active listings. Again, we had a drop off in listings that are available to buy. So if you're looking for a home, these are the listings that pop up on your search and that are available for you to go out and purchase. There's continued drop. I think this is the 10th or 11th week of a drop for active listings. So it continued to drop this week. And on the other side of that coin, we have the number of properties that are under contract to sell, that are contingent or pending. And that number has been going up for the same amount of time, 10 or 11 weeks. And again, we saw actually a pretty significant jump. 180 more homes are under contract this week versus last week. So that's a picture in the data of a tight market, tight inventory, low inventory. And anytime you hear anyone in real estate, complaining about low inventory or saying, this is the issue, that's what they're talking about. This is a picture of it. So we all need more listings. If you want to sell, now's a great time. As we talk about later in this video, if you want to buy, now is also a great time for a couple economic reasons. So that's kind of the potion. It's kind of what we're working with here in the real estate market. I also wanted to talk about this Realtor.com recovery index. So this is something they just came out with. There's a couple different kind of components that go into this, and it's supposed to be a measure of how we have fared through the coronavirus recession that we're in. So they used the end of January as kind of a baseline, and they took year over year information and just kind of benchmarked us against our own market and also some other markets, and came up with this index that is intended to show just how we're doing in the recovery. So they publish this data every week, which I think is really useful and really cool. So we'll stay up to date on that. And our number was at 89.2 for the last week. But, to really get context for that, I think it helps to look at how we stack up versus other markets. So that 89.2 ends up at 28th out of the 51 metro areas that they gathered this information for. These are the components of the index: new listings, days on market, median listing price, and Realtor.com searches, which I think is really cool for them to be able to include. We're kind of right in the middle of the road as far as number of new listings. As far as days on market, really right in the middle of the road. Median year-over-year listing price, we're kind of in the bottom tier, but that doesn't mean that our market's going down. It just means it's not going up as quickly as some of these other metro markets, or at least listing prices are not going up as quickly. And then Realtor.com searches, we were actually ranked very well. So that just means that there's a lot of interest in our market. There's a lot of people searching on Realtor.com for our market, relative to other markets and relative to our own market versus the same period last year. So I think this is really great data. Realtor.com has a lot of great data. There's a link to their kind of main research page. That's something you may want to check out, but I will keep you updated on that also. And then the economic and stimulus update for this week. A couple kind of big headlines in capital markets. Mortgage rates. The index of mortgage rates is hitting all-time lows. There's lots of people that are locking interest rates for 30 years below 3%, which, when I was talking about it being a great time to buy, I think is something that you have to take into account, because you can now get more home for your same monthly payment, or you can have the same home with a much smaller payment with these 3% rates versus even a 4 or 4.5% rate. Really makes a big difference in payments. So that's bullish for the real estate market as a whole, for anyone who's looking for a home or owns a home and wants to refinance and keep more money in their pocket every month. The other thing on capital markets is the NASDAQ hit an all-time high. Stocks have just been surging back from their kind of craziness in March and April. And so their NASDAQ hit an all-time high. S&P is about to go positive for the year. Yesterday was kind of a bloodbath, but overall, we've been just screaming back, just with very little pause. Our market has been just cranked up, and I think that's optimistic. The stock market is usually a leading indicator of the economy as a whole, and the fact that it's right back up at all-time highs in some major indexes is a very positive sign for all of us. So the other thing we've talked about a lot on this show is PPP loans. These are loans that are available for any small business owner, sole proprietor, 1099 contractor, self-employed, very broad range of who is available to get these loans. And when you call it a loan, it's a little bit deceiving, because the whole purpose of these loans is to be forgiven. It's really intended to be a grant. That's how Congress intended it, to help the people in the categories that I just listed. So they originally had some stipulations about how this money had to be spent in order for it to be forgiven. And they recently passed a law making it much more flexible on how you spend that money in order for it to be forgiven. So that's big. They increased the amount of time that you have to spend the money. They increased the range of things that you can spend the money on, and how they just made it way easier to get it forgiven. So that's really great to know. But they also, this is kind of buried in the article that I was reading, but they also announced a modified loan forgiveness application. So on this show, probably over a month ago, I mentioned a link to the loan forgiveness application, and I said that it was kind of a mess. It was like 13 pages of accounting jargon. And for people like me and you, we just can't wrap our minds around or gather the information that it would take to fill out that form. So they announced that they're going to modify that form. I think they're going to make it much simpler, as for just kind of main categories and basic type of supporting documentation for it. So again, it's designed to be forgiven. That's the whole point of it, is to get money into the hands of people who are self-employed or running businesses, or anyone in those categories. And then another thing that's kind of just a rumor, but I wanted to mention it anyways because it came from somebody in the accounting community, that instant forgiveness is a possibility that people are talking about, which would basically just be if your loan is under, say, 100,000, it's just forgiven. The SBA is just saying the intention was for it to be forgiven. We don't want to, force you into piles of paperwork to get it forgiven. So we just, if it's under a certain amount, it's forgiven. End of story. So that becomes really free money, and that was the intention. And so if you haven't applied for one of those yet, I've probably sent 10 people to the banker that I used. He's doing a great job, and I can get you his information. Just reach out to me. My contact's in the link below. I'll keep you all updated on the PPP loans as well as the Birmingham real estate market and everything that has to do with that. I'd love it if you would subscribe to my channel. And thank you all for watching today, and I will see you next week.